No, but I have, I'm house sitting a rabbit, believe it or not, and a little bastard chewed right through it. And
Nice.
I want to punch it. Is it okay to punch rabbits?
If that thing was in Pasco, we'd be eating them in about 2 hours.
Now, punching rabbits is not like it's not gaslighting, so do it.
Right. It's not like I pooped in the rabbit's bed or anything.
Right.
That's it.
Now, be careful. You are in Lakeland, right? That's Polk County country. It's Grady Judd country. So you better make sure that shit's okay first.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll put you on TV. Put your mugshot on TV.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Dead. We shot him dead because he punched a rabbit.
That's right. He punched a rabbit.
Now, broadcasting live from the Podcast Palace on Park Street in beautiful and dangerous Clearwater, Florida. It's the Comedians Uncorked podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Gaud and Pat Largo.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Comedians Uncorked podcast, season 3. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's Tony Gaud up there in the top left. My name is Pat Largo. We get to entertain you guys for the next 45 to 60 minutes or so. And none of this will be possible without our main sponsor, studio sponsor, Julie Drolshagen of Century 21, selling homes, renting homes, helping you buy and sell anytime you want right here in Clearwater, Florida. She can be reached at 727-902-9233 or FloridaBeachBusiness.com.
FloridaBeachBusiness.com. Is that where you can go online to find all your real estate needs right here in Clearwater?
That's correct. Just at the click of a button, at the click of a mouse, as they say. So thank you, Julie Drolshagen. And now this week's guest, this is cool because he's a radio personality. He's still in the game. He also is a part of and owning his own comedy club. He from Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. He now resides in Lakeland, Florida. Mike Lee, thank you so much for being on the Comedians Uncorked podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to finally get a chance to sit down with you guys.
I know, this is great, man. And I got to tell you, Tony, I know about my plight in radio. Not so great over the 16 years. Look at Mike Lee's house. He's doing pretty good in radio, if you ask me.
Yeah, do you guys see my laundry hamper behind me right there?
Dude, this is great. No,
well, Mike works with the radio station as opposed to you that rebels.
Yeah, works against it. Yeah, that usually doesn't go well in radio if you work against the radio station. Yeah.
Oh, I'm against the grain is what I am. And if you're wondering what station he works for, is it Max 98.3 in Lakeland?
Correct. Max 98.3. We broadcast out of Lakeland, but we hit all of Polk County. Obviously, that's our market.
Right.
We're Lakeland Winter Haven is our technically our market, but you can hear us as far away, almost to Clearwater, into Tampa for sure.
Oh, wow.
And all the way over to Orlando. Once you hit the 408, that's where it all goes to crap. That's where the signal drops. That's basically where everything falls apart in Orlando, is right at the 408. So that's that's where we cut out. So we got a pretty nice little area coverage area.
Yeah. No, you have a good swath, as they say.
Yeah.
And real quick, take us back. So I know you're from Oklahoma. How long you been in Florida? What brought you from the Midwest to Florida?
Well, I mean, so if you want to go back to the beginning of my entertainment career, I went to college. Well, okay, all the way goes back to my second senior year of high school.
Oh, not that far back, Mike.
Yeah, I dropped out of high school my senior year, and I was like, "Screw this! I'm way smarter than these people." And then a good friend talked me into going back and getting my degree, or my diploma rather. And while I was there, I met a girl who was way into theater and stuff. So she talked me into trying out for the high school senior musical. So I got my first part as like dad number 3 in the back of the chorus, you know. But then I decided I really like this, and I was always kind of a class clown or whatever, but I really like this stuff. So I ended up going to university for theater, got my bachelor's in fine arts and theater and a minor in mass communications. And while I was there, I joined a troupe, basically it's a production company called West Texas Productions, and they did comedy Wild West shows and comedy pirate shows, and it was all sketch and improv entertainment all over the country.
Wow.
So I traveled with them for 10 years. And the last place that I was stationed, so to speak, I was the managing director of a comedy pirate show and a comedy Wild West show in Winter Haven, Florida, at what is now Legoland, but at the time was what was it called? Cypress Gardens Adventure Park. Mm-hmm. And I was the managing director of that for like 4 years. Well, then 2008 happened, and the economy just collapsed, and I took a job working at a bar to make ends meet, and that bar knew of my performance background, so they asked me to go into the radio station where they were buying advertising and talk to the DJ and tell them about the specials and the bikini contest we had coming up and blah blah blah, and that was my start in radio. I was just the bartender who they said, you're funny and you've performed before. Why don't you go talk to the DJ, take him some wings, and tell him about our 2-for-1 pizza deal every Friday, and Cinco de Mayo bikini contest coming up. And the DJ and I kind of hit it off, and now we've been doing the morning show for 12 years.
Wow.
And that's kind of how I ended up staying here in Florida. And then, of course, somewhere in there, I started doing stand-up. My improv background is really what made and being on stage for 10 years traveling the country is kind of what made me comfortable in a radio studio. And then somewhere along the line, I just decided I'd go up and try stand-up. And I've been doing that for about the same time as radio, about 10, 11 years now.
Wow.
Jeez.
Oh, and somewhere I opened a comedy club. I decided to open a comedy club. I said, screw it, and just opened one.
Yeah, that's
yeah, that's pretty wild. And it's like you went from being the guy that you kind of stumbled into what you were kind of meant to do. You were kind of studying anyways for entertainment, and then you kind of stumbled in. You became a bartender like most of us do. We end up
right.
It's like you're busting tables, you're bartending. I did all that, bar back and everything. And then from there, you become the guy going in and pushing the shows on the radio.
Yep, pretty much. That's exactly wild, it. It wasn't an easy path. I mean, I make it sound a lot easier than it was, but I lived out of hotel rooms for 10 years of my life when I was traveling with basically people like to say I was a carny, but small hands smell like cabbage. But I did that for 10 years of my life, and then whenever the radio thing came around, I was bartending still, and then getting up and going to the radio station at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I did that for 3 years for penny, before they finally said, okay, a full-time position has opened up, and we want you to come on board. And then I was doing it for like 50 cents, not just pennies anymore. I got a big raise, like 50 cents an hour now.
Right.
So yeah, because as you know, Pat, radio doesn't pay that well.
No,
everybody thinks that you're Howard Stern and you're making millions of dollars a year, and that's just not true.
Dude, I was doing intermittent fasting 30 years ago, back before it was called that, because I can only afford one meal a day.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So no, it's really cool though how it happened, because and now real quick, tell people how what time in the morning do you get up to prepare and get ready to prep and do stuff for the morning show?
Well, my alarm goes off at 4 a.m. But I actually get out of bed. I actually get out of bed at about 4:45, and I have to be there at 5. So I get in at 5. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, so I get there at 5, and sometimes a little after that. But we, have about an hour to prep the show, and then go into it right at 6 o'clock. We're on the air from 6 to 10 there. Yeah.
That's awesome. And before we get into some comedy stuff, and Tony, I just got to mark out a second. Just talking about radio. Anyone in your radio career that any of those magical like interview or like starstruck moments, or like where you go, wow, I was really happy to meet or talk with this person. I always wanted to do that. I actually have photographic proof that I was one of the last radio interviews with Bill Cosby before he got all of the scandal came about. Had him in our studio. He was doing a show across the street at the RP Funding Center. Yeah. He sat in my chair that day, and I jumped over into the guest chair because my chair was closer to the door, and he was kind of old and decrepit. Yeah. He needed some help walking or whatever. But it was amazing. Like, we were all, of course we were just in awe that we had Bill Cosby, the Bill Cosby, in our studio, and we just had a great time. He gave us tickets to the show, went backstage and talked with him that night and all that stuff, and we were amazed. And then like 2 months later, Bill Cosby has raped 68 women or however many it was, and we were like, what? Yeah, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You can't deny his talent, you know.
Oh, of course.
I mean, every comic was influenced by Bill Cosby, so it's like everybody's like it's kind of a bittersweet thing. You're like, yeah, he's so funny, but man, come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to. They always say separate the art from the artist, but it's kind of hard to separate the art from the artist on that one. Or you know what I'm saying? Richard Pryor was more of an influence for me than Bill Cosby. Yeah, like you guys told me before we go on the air, before we started recording, that we like to keep it clean on this Comedians Uncorked. And I'm going, well, there goes all my Richard Pryor material, I guess.
For the record, folks, we keep it real because we're a bunch of OGs. We never said that. We say curse.
Gotcha.
Say whatever you want, man.
No. I because it's so ingrained in me after we've been doing the morning show now for 10 years with me full time and almost 13 years now. It is so ingrained in me to keep it radio friendly that it's hard when I'm on stage doing comedy stand up. Forget about it. I even tell people, like when I promote one of my shows on the air, I will tell them, do not think that you're going to get the same kind of humor that you hear on the morning show, because the morning show is censored. Like we're not even supposed to say the word sex on there. We have to call it doing the chores. We came up with our own euphemism. We call it doing the chores. That's the thing, because everybody likes to keep a clean house. You know what I'm saying? Sweep it, mop it, wax it.
Confused. He's not familiar with chores. What is it?
Yeah. Well, the reason that came about was there was a story that said that most women, like over 50% of women, would rather do household chores than have sex with their partner.
Okay.
And so we were like, wow, that's kind of an interesting study.
Man.
Because I guess sometimes having sex with your partner can actually be a chore. So then it just became in the light of that conversation, that became our euphemism for having sex was doing the chores.
That's good.
Keeping a clean house. You got to knock the dust off of it every once in a while. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, but then I was thinking about it, that there's going to be some little boy riding into school with his mom going, that Mike guy sure likes to do the chores a lot. I hate doing chores.
Good.
Chores suck. Mom is going to be like, well, son, one of these days you'll learn the importance of doing the chores and doing them well, unlike your father.
Boom. See? Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Where's Daddy? He's helping the neighbor do her chores.
Yeah. Always helping the neighbor clean out their gutters.
Someone's got to clean it up.
Yeah.
So that is so fun. A couple of weeks ago, I don't have cable, so I was just flipping through my local channels, and I saw the old Dick Cavett show. It was only like 5 minutes left, and he was interviewing Richard Pryor. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, please not this be over. But they're just about to wrap it up, and I don't know. It looked like he was in the prime. This is back maybe early mid 70s, whenever Cavett was on, wherever that was. But he just asked me, he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "Richard, when you leave right now in the alley, I'm a young comic. I come up to you. I go, Mr. Pryor, what does it take? What does it take to be you? What do you tell him?" And I don't know if he gets his question a lot. I'm sure he did, but it was something very simple. He goes, "Just try it, man. Just keep trying. Like you just keep trying." He goes, "Doesn't work, you keep trying. If it doesn't work again, you keep trying, because you just got to keep trying." So I'm like, that was just it was so innocent and simple, but just so poignant. Like he's like, you just don't quit. Just keep trying, man. Yeah. And I'm like, that is so, but that's why when you brought up Richard, it's just, that just kind of hit me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Richard was an inspiration for me at a young age because my dad loved him. My dad thought that Richard Pryor was hilarious.
Okay.
And he had the one of his albums, and it was the one that has the N-word in it, so I won't repeat the name. But you know what I'm talking about. He had that album, and we would listen to it on a record player whenever I was a kid. Uh-huh. And I just thought it was hilarious. Now everybody out there is probably thinking my dad is the worst dad in the world, this 10-year-old kid listening to Richard Pryor. But it was just the kind of relationship I had with my dad. We laughed about everything. He also introduced me to Abbott and Costello, all of like the Marx Brothers stuff, all of that, Laurel and Hardy. I used to watch all of the old classic stuff as well.
Three Stooges.
Three Stooges, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But Richard
There's some
Pryor.
good black and white ones back in the day. There was some
Oh,
funny
yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. I just shot an elephant in my underpants. What he's doing in my underpants, I'll never know.
Right.
But stuff like that. And but when I got a little older, the Richard Pryor thing, for me, I don't know, maybe it was the dirty language or whatever, but it stuck with me. And then, of course, got a little older, and Eddie Murphy came around, and Raw and Delirious. I watched those. We had the VHS of them. I wore those VHSs out, and I was impersonating them. We were laughing on the playground, doing the ice cream routine. I got some ice cream, and you ain't got, that whole thing. And just that's what all of my humor came from, was that era. And it's just now I like to think that I imitate that on stage, but I like you said, everybody's trying to be somebody else till they find themselves. But that's definitely was a big influence whenever I started doing my own comedy and stuff.
Yeah, it was. Well, we had a guest on. Was it Schwensen? What was his first name? Dave Schwensen, Tony?
Oh, I don't know.
And I was just looking at it, watching it again yesterday. Because I mark out to our own shows, Mike. I just can't get enough of the comedians on Cork Podcast.
Of course, yeah.
And Tony does such a kick-ass job editing everything. It's fantastic. So, but Dave was talking about this guy, to be truncated thing. He did the improv in New York and Hollywood, friends with Carlin, all these big names, right? He can call up Carl on the phone and have a conversation. It was beautiful.
Nice.
And he said something, and I heard it again yesterday when I watched it, Tony. He said that basically they say it takes comedians about 10 years or so to find themselves, like to be comfortable in their own skin as to their own personality. Mm-hmm. And it takes about a decade, man. Holy crap. Yeah. Think about that. 10 years of your life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To be you.
Well, and for me, I mean, it's exactly that. I think I'm actually technically working in my 12th year of doing stand-up.
Okay.
But for sure, up until about a year ago or so, it was just writing material and writing jokes that I thought were funny, and finding a way to be comfortable and just being myself and actually like talking to the audience and really being comfortable with that. I mean, I've always had a good stage presence because of my theatrical background and everything like that. But I mean, just like a little bit of crowd work. I didn't even start diving into crowd work except for maybe the last year or so. And just, riffing off the crowd and having a conversation with them instead of talking at them and giving them my material. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that is kind of, I kind of see that. It took me almost 10 years to really get to the point where I can go up there and just be myself and still be funny without having to go, okay, now what joke was I going to tell here? If that makes sense. Yeah.
Sure. I like it.
Crowd work's good. At that point, I'm way past that 10-year mark.
Right.
Double that. But that's when you also start to realize, you start to make choices about your performances and where you perform. You start to realize, okay, here's where I fit, here's where I don't.
Right.
Here's what I'm willing to do, here's what I won't do. You start to make those choices because now you know who you are.
Sure.
So you're going to do what's best for that persona and for the audience that enjoys it. There's no point in performing in front of an audience that is not going to get it.
Right.
Completely wrong for. You're like, look, this is not a good booking. I can't take this.
Yeah. But once
I don't have the audience there. They're going to hate this comic.
Yeah. But you almost have no way of knowing that. So let me ask you, what have you done in the past whenever? Because if I say, hey, I want you to come do Laugh Out Loud, you have no idea what the crowd's like there. You might walk into a room and go, oh boy, this is going to be tough. But what do you do? Because you're not going to know that until you get into the first 5 minutes of your set or so. And then you go,
well, okay. Not necessarily. It's not like that anymore. Here's the difference. Here's where experience comes into play. It used to be like that, where we couldn't know what a room is going to be like.
Yeah.
But now we have social media. You have access to your room. I have access to your room before I go.
Yeah.
So there's like certain rooms that I won't perform in anymore because I've been there more than once, several times. You've opened for me.
Yeah, I have. Yes.
I won't do these rooms anymore because you know what? That's not my audience. That is
Right.
clearly not my audience. I know that now because I went there in person, but
Yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore. I can go and access your room and I can look at the pictures. I
Yeah.
can see what the crowd is. I can see what the room looks like itself,
Right.
the decor. It's like, okay, this is a barn.
Yeah.
This is not where I perform. Right? I say this is a bar. It is a dive bar. I
Yeah.
don't perform in dive bars.
Right.
You know, I can look at it and say, oh, this is a microbrewery. That's where I work at. I can do well in these rooms.
Yeah. Sure.
A better chance because of the crowd that they attract.
Right.
So that's different than it was before. Before you had to go. You
just had to
wouldn't
go
know.
and be there.
Yeah, you wouldn't know until you got there. And it's like, and you still, I mean, it's still, you know, you still take a gamble because you don't know who's going to show up on that night, but
Right.
you get a general idea, you know, so, okay, this is the general crowd. So if that's the general audience, I can, you know, I think I can really entertain them. But if, you know, you pull up pictures and you like, you know, every picture I pull up, there's a cowboy hat.
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
That's not my
Yeah.
room.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
nothing against that audience, but I'm not their comic.
Of
You know,
course.
I don't
Yeah.
have anything for them, you know,
Right.
so I'm not going to take the gig.
They're
It
not
only
gonna
makes
relate
me
to the
look
material
bad,
that you
and it
use,
makes
yeah.
the place look bad in the end. The audience isn't going to enjoy the show. So
I like how you put it though, that that's not your crowd, because that's one of the things. So a lot of people will say, oh, that was a bad crowd. It's a bad crowd, but it's not. And then there are, I do not, get me wrong. I think there is a such thing as a bad crowd, but
Yeah,
nine times out of 10, it's just not your crowd.
it
That's
just
all it
doesn't
is.
match. It's just not
Yeah.
a match.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's all it is. It's like there's nothing wrong with most crowds. Like you said, 9 out of 10 times, there's nothing wrong with the crowd.
Right.
There's that one exception where you're like, this crowd is awful.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
This
there
is,
is no redeeming quality.
yeah.
But
Nobody
most of the
will
time,
shut
it's like, you
up.
know what? They're not feeling me because
Yeah.
this isn't a good match. I'm not their comic. You know, they're not into my stuff, and it's like I'm not giving them the show they were expecting from the comic. So it's
Right.
like it's just a bad match. I know better than to work this room without bringing my own audience. You know, if I don't have if I don't have a draw, then this room is always going to be
Not gonna work.
Yeah.
What was the first time? What was the first show maybe where you realized that, okay, I'm never doing a dive bar again?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I did as much as I could. You know, at the beginning, obviously, you know, in your first 10 years, you pretty much take as much as you can.
Yeah.
Just because you want to get on stage and hone the show. And
I used to sign up for karaoke and then go up and do 3.5 minutes worth of jokes.
yeah, exactly. You just do it every time. But
Yep.
I knew it was probably about, I mean, I would say I went probably in maybe like my 12th year.
Mhm.
I mean, I went as long as I could.
Sure.
I was, and I'm not going to point out any particular bar or anything.
But you can point out the crowd. What was it about the crowd that you went, never mind?
It's just, you know, they just, they weren't there for comedy.
Right.
And it's like, it was clear that it's like the etiquette was gone.
Right.
That's the biggest factor for me. And it's like,
Sure.
you know, the chances of you performing in a dive bar that has etiquette, you know, I mean, it's not, you know, it's like if that's not your environment, you know, it's like I'm cool like a couple of times, you know, because you know it's going to be a lot of dirty jokes you throw around. You're going to play with the crowd as much as you can, but after that, I don't really like entertaining drunk people, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't really get a kick out of like in the middle of my material having to step out and address the audience.
Wow.
I don't mind between jokes, you know, because it's like it's not interrupted anything.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want the whole thing to be crowd work. You know, I worked on a few jokes I want to throw in.
Yeah, of course.
But it was just a matter of like they're not paying attention. So if it's a venue that's like prone to the audience not paying attention because there's TVs.
They don't turn
on.
the TV. Yeah, they don't turn the TVs off. That's the worst
people
one.
are playing pool in the background, you know.
The worst.
And it's just kind of, you know, it's not in a performance environment.
Right.
And,
well, you're gonna love Laugh Out Lounge when you come down, because that's
Yeah.
exactly, because I know exactly what you're talking about. There are no televisions in there. It's a dark room. It is the only lights in the room are on the stage and on the tables, and that's it. And
How many
it's
pool
all
tables?
directed. I'm sorry.
How many pool tables?
Just two. There's one on either side of the stage.
Okay.
No, there's no pool tables. No pool tables. But you guys are gonna love. Pat, I know you're on the books already. I know you're coming down soon, aren't you?
I just bully my way in there. I go, you want to be on this award-winning show, mother effer? You put me in your club.
Yeah. But
no,
we gotta get.
I'm opening for Bill Osei. I believe it's Friday and Saturday, July 8th and 9th. I cannot wait because I've heard nothing but great things about your club.
You're gonna love it, yeah. And we got to get you down there as well, Tony, sometime soon.
Oh,
But yeah, you'll like. It's way better than any dive bar that you've ever done. I can promise you that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, speaking of that, so you go all these years of radio, all these years of being on TV with this big traveling extravaganza you're doing. You end up in beautiful Florida. Now, all these years of doing radio and you're doing comedy, everything's going wonderfully. What puts this idea in your noodle that, hey, you know what? I got to open up my own comedy club.
Well, that started kind of as something that I always wanted to do, but so in college, I always wanted to open a bar. Like that was gonna be my retirement plan, was that I would never truly be retired. You would just always find me behind the bar at my own place, you know, and working a small dive bar actually. I just wanted to have a small bar at some point in my life. So that was kind of always in the back of my head. But then when I started doing comedy a lot and learning kind of the ins and outs of that, you know, especially when you're first starting out, it's hard to get stage time, and you know, it's working your way into a club somewhere can be a long process. So myself, like many other comedians, started producing shows, you know, going to little dive bars and saying, hey, have you ever been interested in doing stand-up? So I got to doing that and got really good at it, where I was producing about 3 or 4 shows a month. And it was always, you know, a once a month at 3 or 4 different venues. And I would get a little circuit going with, you know, some of the other comedians in my circle of friends that I knew or whatever. And I just kind of met the right people who I was producing a show at their bar once a month with my friend Devin Siebold. He was my partner at the time. And it was killer. Every month we packed that place out and we brought in, sometimes it was just for a comedy showcase. Sometimes we brought in headliners, whatever it was, but we were just killing it. And the people who owned that bar, it was a group of young owners, all in their 20s and early 30s.
Oh, wow.
And we started talking about, you know, the possibility of opening a club, because the once a month show was just packed and people were saying, you guys should do it every 2 weeks or every week or whatever. Awesome. So we decided, you know what, let's go for it. And I recently sold a house that I owned in Oklahoma City. So I took that money as my, you know, share, and they had obviously money from their bar, and we all pulled it together and we opened Laugh Out Lounge. Wow. And we've only been open for 6 months, but so far we've had great response from the community here in Winter Haven. The comedians all seem to love it. Haven't had any complaints there. In fact, I've gotten nothing but Ross Paget, who performed just about a month ago, took the time on the Tuesday night after his show to call me while I was sitting down eating dinner, and my phone rings and it's Ross. And I was like, I wonder why Ross. I was like, did his check bounce? I was like, oh crap, his check bounced or something. What's wrong? It shouldn't have bounced. So anyway, I answered it, and he was like, dude, I just wanted to call and tell you that was one of my favorite experiences at a comedy club. Like, I had so much fun. The crowd was amazing. The place looks amazing. Like and that really meant a lot to me, because as a performer, and like you were saying, Tony, I know what it's like to perform in a crappy place. And Laugh Out Lounge isn't big. We only hold 90 people, but we put a lot of work into the stage, the look of it, the feel of it, the production value, just everything. And of course, being small, that makes it kind of easy to offer good service. So the crowds seem to love it. And we roll out the red carpet for the comedians, you know, because that's the way I know. Whenever I went to a comedy club for the first time, and didn't have to pay for beer, and I got a free meal. I was like, man, this is how it should be everywhere. So of course, that's in my head. Yeah, that's in my head. That's what it needs to be, So that's what we do. We try to offer food or drink to the comedians, and just make sure that they're comfortable and having a good time. And then of course the room just takes care of itself with the crowd. So it's been an experience, 6 months so far, and so far so good. Really excited. I hope that everybody that sees this comes out and checks it out in Winter Haven.
And let me just jump in there. So it's winterhavenlol.com. Of course, we're talking about Winter Haven, Florida, with Laugh Out Lounge Comedy Club. So you do two-parter. You do have food, finger food and stuff for the audience?
We do not. We're actually looking into doing like a finger food. So we actually had a failed attempt at this during the pandemic. It was during 2020. We signed a lease at a place that had a kitchen, and we were planning on doing the full-blown comedy club with food and everything. Well, that just kind of fell through for obvious reasons because of the pandemic and everything. But now we found a place, kind of a blessing in disguise. We're actually in downtown Winter Haven, right across from all the major restaurants and bars that are down there. So that within walking distance, you can have dinner at a really nice restaurant, walk right around the corner into the front door of the club. So we do not have food, but we are looking at maybe doing like, a popcorn machine or something like that, just so that you can have a snack, maybe something of that nature, but no food. And we only do beer, wine, and pre-made cocktails. But I tell everybody that the pre-made cocktails are spirit-based, not wine-based liquor. So like if you order a rum punch, there's going to be rum in it.
Gotcha.
But they're just at that level that we're allowed to sell it legally with our license. But it's small, it's intimate, it's so, I just can't wait for you guys to see it. When you walk in, it reminds you of one of those New York City style basement comedy clubs.
Oh yeah.
Low ceilings, real dark.
Nice.
All the light is just, all the focus is on the stage. It's you guys are really going to love it.
I can't wait. It's cozy, man. And as we winding down on time now, how are you doing? I know Lakeland is a very well-knit community and very supportive. And I'm sure you being on the radio helps, which is
of course,
fantastic. Yeah. How is in a couple of minutes worth here, like the marketing? What do you see yourself doing or going to be doing when it comes to advertising and getting even more people and selling out as many shows as possible? What are you doing?
Well, as far as marketing goes, I do a lot of social media marketing. So, and Winter Haven is an older crowd, especially for 6 to 7 months out of the year. It's all snowbirds, so they all have a Facebook page. So our marketing is largely focused on Facebook, but I'm trying to get into Instagram, and we're gonna get a TikTok going soon, things like that, so that we can start drawing the younger crowd in as well. But we do advertise on the radio station. They allowed me to do that, which is, I think, mostly because of the pandemic. When all of the advertisers started pulling their money, they were like, yes, we'll bring in whoever. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we do a little advertising on the radio station that I do pay for, by the way. I want to get that out there. That's our marketing strategy is social media and radio right now. We don't have any television ads or anything like that. And then occasionally I do award-winning podcasts.
There you go.
and of course, Tony, he has time for hours as well.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
So stupid. Don't even laugh.
But it sounds like you're scaling up the club the right way. Everything's moving organically.
Yeah, so we're trying to do.
Yeah, and all I've heard are great things from other comics, so they're excited about the room. So we're trying to keep it that way, and we try to keep it nice for the people who come to the shows as well. Like I literally, whenever you texted me and said I sent you the link for the Zoom meeting, I was at the comedy club meeting with the carpet guy who's putting in brand new carpet. Because we put in the cheap stuff in the beginning, opening up on a budget, and we realized how very soon, within 6 months, what a mistake that was. So we've got new commercial carpet going in, and we're always trying to upgrade. We put in lots of TVs, a couple of pool tables, things like that. Yeah,
right. The kind of clubs where that me and Tony are used to. So with about 30, 45 seconds left or so, everything going on. I know you just opened the club. It's not even close to a year old yet, but let me fast forward it. What's the future like for Mike Lee? Not only Laugh Out Lounge Comedy Club, but what is it? More comedy clubs? Is it what do you got going on? Do you think?
I think a little bit of a combo. I just recently got the club to a point where, along with my partners, that we were able to hire a staff. so that we don't necessarily have to be there all the time. I still love it and I love comedy, so I'm there almost all the time,
Right.
but don't have to be. So I've started being able to book myself again and get back out there and put out my avails with some of the clubs nearby and the rooms that are going on. So obviously I want to pursue that side of my career, but definitely one club is not going to be enough. Like, we want to continue this and find other cities that are, you know, kind of in the exact same scenario that Lakeland, Winter Haven are, where they're kind of too far outside the big city to go into the big clubs. So they need something there for their own environment. So that's the plan.
There you
That's
go.
the plan.
A strategy, nice.
Oh yeah.
I like hearing that. And let me just get, unless Tony, you have one last one, I just want to know real quick, how can people get a hold of you? How can comedians get a hold of you for their avails and stuff like that? Or
Go to winterhavenlol.com for anybody who wants to come see a show. You'll see all of our shows that are upcoming. There's also a booking form on there if you're a comedian. But the best way is just log on to your Facebook page, find Laugh Out Lounge in Winter Haven. We're unmistakable with our logo and everything, and shoot us a message, even as comedians or as a guest. Shoot us a message if you have any questions, and we'll get you taken care of.
Good. And like the page, by the way, folks. Don't
Yes,
just ask them
please.
for a gig.
Yes.
Like the freaking page.
Yes, please.
All right. Hey, listen, Mike Littman, we could be talking to you for hours, man. So thanks for
All right.
joining us, and we'll definitely get you over here for shows soon. And I can't wait to get to your club, man. So let me just say
Absolutely.
this for Tony Gaud. My name is Pat Largo. Our guest, Mike Lee, owner of Laugh Out Lounge in Winter Haven, Florida. Guys, thank you so much. Again, we can't say enough. Thank you for checking out, watching, and enjoying the Comedians Uncorked podcast. Laugh, you deserve it. We'll see you next time.
Comedians Uncorked.
Don't forget to check out our Comedians Uncorked YouTube channel and just click on that subscribe button. Thanks.